Okay, I think we are live. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Talk About TV, where we talk about all things experiential outdoor hospitality. And every Wednesday, I like to come to you and just share with some brilliant individual from the space something that you don't yet know about outdoor hospitality. And Lorraine comes every month. I can't believe it's already been a month.
I
Usually it
know.
seems like forever, but somehow this month went by really quickly. So I'm just delighted, as usual, to be here with you, Lorraine, from Becoming Rentable. And we were chatting about some pretty exciting things earlier that I'm sure she'll be sharing in the future. Today, we're going to talk about where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the points of certification for a property or for an actual accommodation? Or do you want to
Absolutely.
start
Yep.
big and go small? Because I know you have she actually made notes today.
I,
Usually we come on
I,
and just talk. So I think Lorraine has the agenda, which is why I'm stumbling over my words.
well,
What are we talking about?
I don't have an agenda per se. But I went through LinkedIn this morning and I'm trying to, see what the conversations on accessibility are. And
Okay.
so, about, the benefits of an accessible short-term rental. And, again, with working with you all on the accessible retreat, I really look at what are the benefits. But before we even do what my agenda was, I do think that the certification is important because, what we see traditionally on platforms is the post that my property is accessible.
Yeah.
And again, there's this education, what really is accessible. So for becoming rentable, we created a certification so we could actually go in and review it, evaluate it, and then validate that, yes, you do have these things. And so, when you go to becomingrentable.com, we actually have an opportunity for accessible properties to be on our list that are not a certified. Certification is a $200 investment per year. And so, what does that
Nothing.
mean?
Nothing. Which is it's like worth it. That's a very low. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
That's okay.
if that's stopping anyone, you're crazy. So go ahead.
Well, and you're right. It is because what do we look for and what does certification mean? Well, it means, like other platforms, we actually go in and we validate it because there's nothing that's so hard is when it says and you think you've got a place that I'm in a wheelchair and I can go and enjoy a weekend getaway, a week getaway, whatever it might be, and you get there and you can't. And
Yeah.
so it's that validation that's so important. And so on our platform and on other platforms, when you have a certified accessible property, that means that you look for it online, it's going to get to the top. And so what do we look for when we're certifying a property? And I use myself as the example. So can Lorraine in her wheelchair in her van drive up and get into the property? So if you are the accessible retreat at a state park, or if you're an accessible retreat at a camping community, or you're a property like mine at Carolina Beach, we want to look at what is that surface. So you may not think of a driveway with concrete, stone going, that's an accessible feature in a property. Because if it's gravel, I'm not going to go very far. If it's dirt, I'm not going to go very far. Not to say that you can't, but in my electric wheelchair, I can't. And so I want to know up front, what is that surface? So again, when you're listing your property, make sure that you indicate that element and it is accessible. And so then I look at, okay, I've parked into your parking area. I can get out, but can I get to that entrance that's accessible? Is it the driveway? Is it I'm sorry, the front door? Is that the accessible? Or is it the garage door? Or is it the back door, a side door? There's not a rule that says your front door has to be the door that you enter.
Okay.
So that's something to think about. What is
That's
that?
a big, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm just
Oh,
thinking of
Michelle,
all
that's
these,
what you and I do.
yeah, all these different well, it makes me think of so many properties I've been to, and that it just at first seems impossible. Like there's like maybe it's an older building, that has all the steps or whatever. There's a lot of historical, especially with outdoor hospitality. Could be boutique hotels that they're like these old historical buildings, but there's always going to be a way, right? Another, so what you just said about another entrance, I'd not really thought about that before, and that could make so much sense. Could be to the side or to the back, as long as you have the signage and you're directing them and it's beautiful. And I mean, everything is just an opportunity, every obstacle. So,
It really is. And not long ago did I receive a call from somebody who had an accessible property, and honestly, one of the most beautiful bathrooms I'd ever seen from an accessible standpoint.
oh, wow.
They had steps everywhere, but in their garage, they had space. And I said to the owner, I said, would you be open to a platform lift? And she said, well, what is that? And I said, we could take out the steps here and put this a platform ramp where it is something that is like this. That's you roll onto the
Yeah.
platform, push a button, and then you go up to the floor that you can get out of. And she's like, well, I don't know if I can afford it. $1,200. And so less than one
Really?
night's rental.
No way. That seems so. A lot of people, again, I'm interrupting, but really, I mean, many people, I'm sure, and this is why we do these videos so everyone can be educated. But the first thought is like, I can't do it because I can't afford it. That's what we all think when it comes to improvements to the property, right? Like, can I afford it? That's ridiculously accessible,
Mm-hmm.
financially accessible.
And
Yeah.
again, there's this notion that everything is $25,000 and
Yes.
it's going to take forever and that there's construction involved. And in this, she was able to do it in a short amount of time. And it was a large property. So again, we're looking at multi-generational property here,
Yeah.
opportunity. But she said it was her renters that didn't have a disability who loved it because they put all of their coolers and their luggage
The
and they put
groceries.
everything went on it. And then they push the button and somebody would be at the top and get everything down. So they were like, praising this property owner for this platform lift, not for the accessibility of it, but for the convenience of
Yeah.
the whole family not having to drag all that stuff up. So
Wow.
I love the story. And, again, it was one of those things that she never thought of. And then the financial aspect, and then the return on investment was so quick for them. And so I love that. So we do look at the entrance, but again, to look at that, where is that entrance? And a lot of times, we have a property that has 4 steps in the front. And it's like, Lorraine, how do you call this an accessible property? And it's like the entrance is in the back because
Yeah.
that's the space we had to work with. The front didn't have the space for the ramp. So we look at that. And we also, look at sometimes you might have a property that you're going to the front door, but there's one step, because of the ground level that you go up. And so we look at that. It's like you don't have any steps. It's hard surface. That equals clear path. So
Mm,
we want to know that.
right.
How wide are your doors? Now, again, I tell, and everybody's heard Lorraine's a wide load. She's high maintenance. I love a 36-inch door. I actually love a 42-inch door, but in reality, a 32-inch door is considered an accessible door. And
Mm,
the most important thing about an accessible short-term rental is to share how wide is that door, because that
yes.
is, again, up to the renter to determine if that will meet their needs. And so they just need to know. That's all it is sharing of that information. And it,
So sharing the specific details instead of
mhm,
just this umbrella term of accessible. Yeah, people really need to know. And everyone is so unique.
Mhm.
Everyone has their own needs, their own, situation. So I think that's just communication that people don't think about. It's in anything, any property. How many details can you share?
Exactly. And so again, so I was working with another client and they were like, well, we cannot do a, uh 5 foot turning radius in our bathroom. So I
Hmm.
guess we can't have an accessible bathroom. And it's like, can the wheelchair go in? Let's say it's like a oh, what are the kitchens that are just galley kitchens? Is it kind of like a galley kitchen that it's so wide? And if you have 48 inches that is clear space from here to the toilet? Well, yes. And I said, that's accessible. Ideally, would we like to turn around? You bet. Do we have to have it turn around, that space to turn around? No, you don't. Same thing in a bedroom. If you have that extra space to turn around, love to have it. But is it necessarily? No. In our short-term rental properties that we own, there is 48 inches for the wheelchair to go in, transfer to get on the bed. And then, but it's accessible. And so again, when you look at ADA in the hotel world, it's like you need this 5 foot turning radius. And that is what part of the ADA for a hotel is. In short-term rental, we don't have those specs. The ADA wasn't written for specifics of the short-term rental. So we
Yeah,
and we look at it from becoming rentable as, can you get your wheelchair? Can Lorraine get her large wheelchair to the bed to be able to use a Hoyer lift and transfer, or for my husband to hoist me on the bed and get me on the bed? And
hmm,
so again, it's 48 inches. And we looked at that at the accessible retreat, knowing that this is a 400 square foot unit, a mobile park unit.
that's
Do we have that turning radius? We don't. But you know what?
right.
On either side of the bed, we have 48 inches. So a wheelchair can get in either side. And we have space underneath the bed. I'm working with another group and they were saying that they want to promote the accessible bedroom. And do we need, this much space? And I said, well, what about the space underneath the bed? Well, we were not putting anything in there. And it's like, well, you need space for the Hoyer lift. So do you have 9 inches or more space so that a Hoyer lift can go under the bed? And it's like, yes. I said, well, that's what you need to make sure is in the description when you talk about the bedroom. So it is those attention to details. Not everybody's going to have a Hoyer lift or bring a
Yeah,
Hoyer lift or need a Hoyer lift. But if you have it, that's another benefit for more people to access your
right.
property. So that's
Yeah,
what we
and
look at.
honestly, even the things that whether you use it or not, like in outdoor hospitality or any hospitality, the more you can share about the efforts that you're making and even be open to suggestions and what people need. We have to be listening to our guests. So that's a big part of hospitality, right? How we approach everything. Like, are you really thinking about what your guests need and
Mhm.
communicating that to them and then getting feedback from them when they are there and so that you can continue to make improvements. Yeah, all the little I mean, my gosh, since I've known you, I mean, the things that you think about, we're all just like, oh my gosh, okay, we've got to fix that. We've got to fix that. And sometimes inches matter,
Mm.
just a few inches. Or like when you're talking about having a table or some whatever it is, that can move, that can serve two purposes. Can the table lift up so you have more space to get through and under and move this over there. All of these, you know, very detailed design features make all the difference in the world, especially when you're talking about limited space.
It was interesting because just recently somebody sent me a new product. I'm always looking for products that can be accessible, benefit somebody, particularly with a mobility disability like me in a wheelchair. So there's this product. It was a kitchen, a living room table. The
Mhm.
top came off, but it hydraulically lifted up and pivoted out. So you're sitting at the couch, and now you can work at home with
Yeah,
this
I've seen
table.
those.
And I'm
Yeah.
going, okay, why aren't you marketing this to our wheelchair accessible community?
Ah,
Because that is exactly what we would love to use and work from our home in the living room, where the dog can sit next to me and have that table lift up, but it's not presented in that way. And
we
so
should have one of those in the accessible retreat.
we should. I think when we were
Yeah.
looking at the furniture options, that I don't know that I found that. I mean, today my son even reached out to me and said, "Hey, mom, look at this new product that I found," and it was an electronic toilet lift. And I'm going,
Wow.
man, we need
Every
that for
day
the
there's,
accessible retreat. The
wow.
yeah, because it connected to the toilet. The cost was less than $300,
Oh
but
my
yet the
goodness.
benefit, who doesn't want to be help hoisted off the toilet? I have
Wow.
friends with long legs all the time, and they complain about how short the toilet is and how how hard it is to lift up. So for $250, there's this new product that will. I think the it was 40% was the radius that it came up. So I mean
Hmm.
that's a pretty good rotation to help you get out of that chair for $250. And so
Wow.
Nathan reached out and said, "Hey, mom, do we want one of these at our properties? And do you want that for? Actually, I do need to share that with you, so we can add that to our arsenal of options for people to look at,
Yeah.
because it's really cool. So
Yeah.
yeah,
We should have every option available that they can add on.
yeah, absolutely. But I do love, again, one of the topics that I had thought about in my notes was, community inclusion, because we're seeing more and more of community inclusion. So these features that people have in their short-term rentals does allow, our community, I mean, go somewhere so you can visit that community. And when the community sees you in a restaurant, when that community sees you at a state park, that community and the tax dollars that you've helped bring in, they're more inclined to put those curb cuts. They're more inclined to have large print, in flyers, and really enhance the travel and the community participation.
That is a very good point, Lorraine. Yeah.
So, but
People
that's,
are thinking it from that. There's so many perspectives, and
mm,
it really is about the continued education and kind of normalizing these conversations.
mhm. So this morning, my husband's out of town, so I have somebody coming in to help me in the mornings and at night. And so this morning came in, got me out of bed, helped me to the bathroom, and I got to meet Charlotte's daughter, who's in nursing school. And so Charlotte, mother's name was Charlotte. Her grandmother's name was Charlotte. And so,
Oh,
but her daughter, she said, I can't do it. I can't have a fourth Charlotte. And it made me think, we have juniors in the male generation, and
right.
we have Robert the third and Robert the fourth. Why don't we have, juniors and Charlotte the second and Charlotte the third? Why hasn't that conversation, or maybe it has, but I found it very interesting this morning to think about, you know, um, how we do look at things differently. And even in our names,
That's
it's like
interesting.
a male
Yeah,
is very proud. I'm the third. My husband is a junior. And yet Charlotte is Charlotte, but she's actually the third. So
interesting.
it is about perspective and
I
thinking about
wonder
things.
why that is between men and women.
I
That's,
know it makes me want to like go and learn more and
yeah,
start
Google
this
that.
conversation.
Yeah,
But that's what we are doing, is we're bringing about
right.
conversation. to think about things in different ways. And
Yes.
that's why I like being here every month.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's so, I mean, you have to stay top of mind because people don't think about, we're so inundated with information
Mhm.
that we just don't think about these things until they become relevant to us. And this is why there's such a distinct advantage, especially in outdoor hospitality, for people to learn more and really offer these options. I mean, we say it every month. It's like 70 million people and we're just talking about that's just mobility issues. So that's not even covering many, many other things. So yeah, it's all about learning and then serving, right? Being,
It is. And, our 70 million Americans with disabilities is one number, but we have our seniors. And I'm seeing more and more about the baby boomers and in 2030 because in 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 2030 seemed like forever in the future. Well,
oh,
now in 2025, it's like around the corner where
yes,
we
it
will have
is.
70 million baby boomers now be in the senior community.
Yeah,
70 million with time, money, resources to travel. And
yes,
are we in this industry ready for that influx? And we're absolutely not.
not.
We're not. And that's why this particular conversation is so important and why the accessible retreat is so important because we are gearing up and we are preparing. It doesn't happen overnight. My disability awareness education efforts actually began over 40 years ago. So I've been doing this over 40 years.
Yeah,
And the saddest part is what I started in 1986, which is attitudinal, architectural, and communicative barriers, is what I'm doing today. We've seen that little of a change since 1986 in work that I started. And it takes a long time. So as we look at 70 million Americans aging to the senior level in 2030, that's
yeah.
5 years. Think about how long it's taken us to get where we are today, which isn't where I'd like
So
it to
get
be.
on it, everybody.
Seriously.
Here's a here's a
Yeah,
public service announcement to the outdoor hospitality industry. Get with it.
get with it. And
These
we look
people
at the
and
Dow every
seriously,
day. You look
yeah,
at the stock market. You want a good investment? Well, here's your tip of the day.
yeah.
Get an accessible property, put it near a university or hospital, and I guarantee you, you will have financial success. I guarantee you, because there is so few. I mean, I would gather less than 500 accessible properties across the United States are near a college or university or a hospital.
What?
Yes. So,
Wait a minute. Let me make sure I heard that. Less than 500
yes,
accessible properties across the country
whole
near
country.
a hospital wow. Yeah, that's unbelievable.
I mean, even Durham, North Carolina, I received a call from a lady. Her husband had cancer. They lived in West Virginia. He
Mhm.
had to be at Duke for multiple days every 6 weeks, but he could not stay in a hotel. So they looked for an accessible place to stay. And Ronald McDonald House wasn't an option for them. And the lady called and was crying. She said, Lorraine, we can't find an accessible place for my husband to stay. I want to be near the hospital. We have to have these treatments. We have to be back 4 or 5 times every 6 weeks. And we live in West Virginia. We found her a place an hour and a half away.
An
And she was
hour and a half. Wow.
and she was devastated. It's like, my husband will die if we can't find him. He cannot go to a hotel. I mean, she was really frantic. And the closest place we could stay, and this is the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, North Carolina area, was an
Hmm.
hour and a half away. We're talking Duke University. We're talking about UNC, NC State. large college university systems, some of the best medical facilities in the world at Duke and Carolina. But yet, for a place for somebody going through treatment was an hour and a half away.
How does that even make any sense? Why are they not just investing in properties? The thing about the accessible retreat is that it's like a kit. Like and it's not a kit, it's made. It's like
So
a
rolling
done for
accessible,
you. Yeah, we just roll it in. We have all the furniture, and then we can put an accessible deck on it and make it really beautiful. So that people also have outside access,
right.
and plants and nature and it's actually a day worth living when you're there. It's not like, oh, okay, you have to have second best treatment. No, there's just so many ways. We have the ability to do it. So there's just no excuse for anyone not to be. Now
And affordable ways of doing it and revenue producing ways. I mean,
yes.
we talk about the emotional state, but there also is in this a business. It is good business. Not
Ooh.
only are you providing a needed service, I could tell you a story about Johns Hopkins University. They don't have anything. The Mayo Clinic in Michigan, they don't have anything. 19 top children hospitals around the country, they don't have access. I mean, it is amazing that the people that we've talked to, who we've reached out to, we did research 3 years ago on children hospitals. It's unbelievable. And it's like I tell you, yeah,
A
you
huge
let it
opportunity. So
huge.
call us up. We're here
That's
to
right.
help. You have the
Michelle,
land, we have
operators at
the
Michelle's are waiting.
yeah,
We'll take your call.
standing by.
That's
Yeah.
right. So
Awesome.
anyway, we'll have more to talk about next month.
Yes, we will. Thank you so much, Lorraine. Do you
Thank
have
you.
any last final words for everyone today?
Great return on investment. No, it's just the need is now. The need is now. And there's information out there. BecomingRentable.com. We have lots of information. Michelle and the folks at Evolve Lodging are a tremendous resource for one of the very first accessible mobile units. So again, there are resources available to
Yeah,
help meet the need.
wonderful.
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Lorraine. The
All
need
right.
is now. So reach out, everyone. Have a beautiful Wednesday. And I'll be back again next week. Lorraine will be back next month.
That's right. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
All right.
Bye.